All right, listen, before we even get into the breakdown of UFC 319, I just want you to stop for a second and think about what we're about to witness, because this isn't your average Saturday night fight card. This isn't some filler show where you're half paying attention while scrolling your phone. No, this is one of those nights that's going to demand every ounce of your attention, because it's history unfolding live and it's happening in real time right in front of us. And the thing about these moments is you don't always realize how big they are until later, until you look back and go, damn, I was there when that happened. And that's the beauty of fight nights like this, because it's unpredictable, it's raw, it's violent and beautiful all at once. And you've got two completely different energies colliding in that cage. You've got the aura of the unstoppable and the fire of the underdog. You've got storylines layered on top of storylines, and you can feel it in your bones that this night is going to matter, that this card is going to shake up the UFC in ways we might not even be ready for. So buckle up, because what's coming is bigger than just fights. It's a storm of energy. It's a cultural moment. And if you're here right now listening, you're already part of it. So lock in, because by the time this is over, you're going to remember UFC. Man, the thing about being back in that commentary booth for a card like UFC 319 is that it doesn't just feel like a job. It feels like stepping into the heartbeat of the sport itself, like you're plugged straight into the raw electricity of fight night, the roar of the crowd, the thud of leather on bone, the tension in the air when two guys are about to walk into the octagon and settle something primal. And there's this strange mixture of chaos and order that only exists in MMA. And to sit cage aside, to call it as it unfolds, live in real time, it's like being part of a living organism where every second matters, every breath from the fighters is felt. And you're the bridge between that insane reality and the millions of people watching at home. And when it's a massive card like this, with guys like Chimaev and Plessis about to tear into each other, the return to the booth isn't just commentary. It's witnessing history. It's feeling the culmination of years of sacrifice and training from these fighters. It's understanding the stakes and bringing that to the audience in a way that keeps them locked in, because you can't fake the energy of a night like this. You can't script it. It's raw, unpredictable, and it makes your skin buzz just being there. You're watching careers evolve, legends being born. You're hearing the crowd swell and crash like waves, and your job is to ride that wave and give it a voice, to capture the intensity of the clinch battles, the drama of a near knockout, the shock of a submission attempt that comes out of nowhere, and to translate that chaos into words without losing the magic of it. And when you've been away, when you've missed that seat for a while, coming back feels like getting oxygen again after being held underwater. It's a reminder of why this sport is so addictive, why it's not just fighting, it's storytelling at the most visceral level, where one punch can change everything. And to be sitting there again, headset on, octagon in front of you, the fighters pacing back and forth like lions ready to explode. Man, it's the most alive you can feel. And when the lights hit, the music hits, and the announcer's voice booms through the arena, that return becomes more than just a job. It becomes a celebration of everything that makes mixed martial arts the wildest ride in all of sports. Man, the thing about a fight like Chimaev versus Plessis is that it's not just two high-level athletes colliding in the octagon. It's a pure clash of styles that makes combat sports so compelling. Like on one side, you've got Chimaev, this absolute wrecking machine who comes forward like a predator, suffocates guys with his relentless wrestling pressure, and doesn't just shoot for takedowns. He mauls you. He breaks your will with pace, with intensity, with the kind of ground control that makes you feel like you're drowning. And then on the other side, you've got Plessis, this awkward, unorthodox, but insanely effective striker who doesn't move the way traditional guys move. His angles are weird. His timing is odd. His rhythm feels almost clunky. But that's what makes him dangerous, because he doesn't fit the patterns fighters train for. He comes at you with this chaotic energy where you think you've got him figured out, and suddenly a looping shot or a sneaky kick lands clean. And what makes this fight fascinating is the way those styles intersect. Like what happens when Chimaev shoots in on a guy who thrives in chaos, who doesn't mind being uncomfortable, who's used to awkward exchanges, and what happens when Plessis tries to create space to land those funky shots against a guy who just doesn't give you room to breathe. It's like a chess match, but played at 100 miles per hour with fists and blood. And the thing about MMA is styles make fights. We've seen it forever. A guy with elite wrestling against a guy with unpredictable striking, it always comes down to who can impose their will first, who forces the other to abandon their game plan. And with these two, you're watching a test of not just skill, but adaptability. Like, can Chimaev deal with someone who doesn't react the way most of his opponents do? Can he keep that pace against a guy who's comfortable in ugly fights? And can Plessis survive the initial storm long enough to make Chimaev doubt himself, to plant that little seed of uncertainty? Because if he does, that fight can swing dramatically. And that's why this matchup is so electric, because every second is a tug of war between chaos and control, between pressure and creativity, between raw dominance and awkward brilliance. And you don't know until the cage door closes whose style is going to swallow the other. There's something so primal about the psychology of a fight like this, because on one side, you've got the undefeated aura, that almost mythical energy a guy like Chimaev carries into the cage, where every opponent knows he hasn't tasted defeat. And that creates this invisible pressure, this mental weight. Like, you're not just fighting a man, you're fighting the idea of invincibility, and that can crush guys before the first punch is even thrown, because they start second-guessing themselves. They hesitate. They wonder if they're about to be another highlight reel. And then on the other side, you've got the underdog mentality, this raw, hungry, chip-on-the-shoulder drive that Plessis embodies, where nobody expects him to win. And instead of that being a burden, it fuels him. It frees him, because he's got nothing to lose and everything to prove. And that creates this wild dynamic where one guy is protecting perfection and the other guy is chasing destiny. And the thing about fighting is sometimes it's not about who's technically better. It's about who shows up in that moment, and pressure does crazy things. Like, an undefeated fighter has this shield until the first crack appears. And once someone survives the storm and punches back, that aura can crumble in an instant. And suddenly the invincible guy looks human. And once you look human in there, the underdog smells blood. Because the thing about being counted out is it makes every success bigger. Every landed punch feels like a win. Every scramble you survive gives you momentum. And momentum in a fight is dangerous. It's contagious. It flips the script. And that's why people love these matchups, because it's archetypal. It's the unstoppable force against the relentless dreamer. The guy who's been crowned versus the guy trying to steal the crown. And it's fascinating to see how fighters handle that weight. Like, does the undefeated fighter rise to the occasion and reinforce the legend? Or does the underdog drag him into a dogfight and prove that legends bleed too? And that's the beauty of MMA. It's not written. It's not scripted. The truth comes out in real time under the lights when fists fly and game plans break. And that aura versus mentality battle is one of the most intoxicating things you'll ever witness. When you talk about high stakes for the UFC's future, this fight right here between Chimaev and Plessis is one of those moments that feels like a fork in the road for the whole organization. Because think about it, you've got two guys who represent completely different trajectories for the sport. On one hand, Chimaev is this global phenomenon, this undefeated wrecking machine that the UFC has been grooming, almost like a future face of the company. The kind of guy who can headline cards in Abu Dhabi, New York, Vegas, wherever, because people tune in just to see if anyone can even touch him. And if he wins, if he stays unbeaten against a guy like Plessis, then the UFC gets that ironclad superstar they've been waiting for, a guy who could carry pay-per-views, bring in international fans, and set up massive fights with the biggest names in multiple weight classes. But on the flip side, Plessis is not just some opponent. He's a South African warrior who represents a whole new market for the UFC, a whole new audience. And if he pulls off the upset, if he takes down the so-called unstoppable Chimaev, then suddenly the UFC has a new story to tell, this Cinderella kind of narrative where the underdog shocks the world and becomes a national hero. And that opens up Africa in the same way guys like Ngannou and Adesanya did. So either way, the stakes are massive, because whoever comes out on top could literally reshape matchmaking, future title fights, and even the UFC's global expansion strategy. And that's why this fight feels so much bigger than just two dudes scrapping in a cage. It's about direction, it's about identity, it's about what the UFC wants to be in the next 5 years. Do they double down on the hype of the unbeaten destroyer, or do they pivot and ride the wave of an underdog who shocked the system? And the thing is, both outcomes are compelling. Both outcomes are money, but only one will happen. And that's why nights like this are so electric, because it's not just about the belt or rankings, it's about the legacy of the sport and how a single fight can send ripples through the entire fight world. Man, when you talk about the unleashed energy of UFC 319, it's like describing a storm that's been building for months and then finally breaking loose on fight night, because there's this raw electricity in the air that you can't replicate anywhere else. It's not just about the fights themselves, it's the buildup, the storylines, the tension between these athletes who've been grinding in silence, cutting weight, pushing their bodies past the edge, and then when the lights hit, when the crowd roars, all of that pent-up energy just explodes into something primal, and you can feel it in your chest like the whole arena is vibrating. And UFC 319 has that perfect storm kind of vibe, because you've got these insane matchups stacked on the card. You've got Chimaev versus Plessis headlining, which is already a clash of monsters. But it's not just them, it's every fight before it adding to that momentum, every knockout, every submission, every near-miss ratcheting up the intensity. And by the time the main event rolls around, the crowd is on fire. The commentators are buzzing. Even the fighters in the back are feeding off that energy. And what's wild is that this isn't just about the people in the arena. It's global. Millions of fans are watching at home, glued to their screens, tweeting, screaming, pacing their living rooms. And that energy travels. It's contagious. It's like a living organism that feeds on itself. And the UFC is unique because it harnesses that chaos. It doesn't try to tame it. It lets it loose. And UFC 319 feels like one of those nights where the sport reminds everyone why it's the fastest growing sport in the world, why people who don't even follow fighting get hooked the second they sit down to watch, because it's unpredictable. It's raw human will colliding inside that cage. And that unleashed energy, man, it's not just in the punches or the kicks, it's in the silence right before the walkouts. It's in the crowd chanting names. It's in the way you can't look away even for a second, because you know something insane could happen. And when it all comes together on a card like this, it feels less like a sporting event and more like a cultural eruption, something people will talk about for years after the lights go down. All right, guys, so when you take a step back and look at everything we've been talking about, the return to the booth, the clash of styles, the undefeated aura against the hungry underdog, the insane stakes for the UFC's future, and that raw, unleashed energy that's going to come alive at UFC 319, you realize this isn't just another fight card. This is one of those moments that defines the sport, one of those nights that fans remember forever, because it's not just about who wins or loses, it's about watching human beings push themselves past every limit. It's about the drama, the chaos, the discipline, the heart, the strategy, all colliding inside that octagon like a supernova. And the crazy thing is, none of us really know how it's going to play out. That's why we watch. That's why we get goosebumps just thinking about it. Because at any second, something absolutely historic can happen. Something that shifts the landscape of MMA forever. And that's why UFC 319 feels so massive, because it's not just an event. It's a ride. It's a story. It's a reminder of why combat sports touch something deep inside of us, that primal connection to struggle, to victory, to survival, to legacy. And honestly, man, I just want to say thanks to everybody who rides this journey, because without the fans, without the energy, without the passion you guys bring every single time, none of this would be what it is. So good luck to the Warriors stepping into the cage. May the best man rise. And thank you to everyone watching, listening, and feeling this with us, because you are the heartbeat of the fight game. Stay strong, stay hungry, and I'll see you on Fight Night.